Hi there, welcome to episode 58 of Paranormal Blip. Brilliant that you are here to join me. And I'm pulling myself away from, let me finish the sentence, away from Guns N' Roses, Gluns and Roses, as I like to call them, who are appearing live on my television in Glastonbury at the moment. And got a good few songs, haven't they? Yeah, they still got the Verve. Not as good as the Verve, though. Oh, yeah, they were good. Not as good as the Manics, eh? Manics were on earlier. Do you remember them? Yeah. Motorcycle Emptiness. Anyway, today we are going to look at three different things. Now, this is a kind of rolling news episode in a way, okay? So it's kind of like an update on two things. And also, there's a big news story which I felt like I was compelled to tell you about. So let me get my ducks in order. First of all, we're going to look at some very interesting language that has been passed by the Senate for this new Intelligence Authorization Act for next year. And Douglas Dean Johnson has done an excellent story about that came out just earlier today, don't know how many hours ago, but not that long ago. And then we're going to follow up with our friend Avi Loeb. He's not my friend, but I like him to be my friend, Avi. If you're out there off the coast of Papua New Guinea, thinking what shall I listen to? Well, listen to this and contact me. Hit me up on Twitter and we can be friends. Oh, I'd very much like that. Whoa. Anyway, I'm going to. So he has had. I spoke about his extraordinary project last episode, and I tell you what, it has come on in leaps and bounds. So I'm very much looking forward to telling you about that, the update there. Very interesting. And we've got a little snippet of an interview that Avi did a couple of days ago as well, which is absolutely fascinating stuff. And then finally, Marco Rubio has given an interview, quite a short interview, to a journalist called Matt Laszlo. And Matt Laszlo has kind of done a write-up of it. So I'll go through that. And I'll also link to the audio of the interview as well. So that's very good. So, yeah, very exciting. And welcome to episode 58. So, just a word of thanks now to everybody that is subscribing on Spotify, which means you don't miss an episode and you get it straight away, just as I press, launch. And also everybody that's subscribing on Apple and on all other, platforms. And especially thank you to the folk that are subscribing to the exclusive episodes. And you can do that for 99 pence, which is around about $1.20, I think, last time I checked, which is around about €1.20 as well, last time I checked, which was a couple of months ago. But I don't think has it fluctuated that much? I don't think so. And also, thank you for the folk that have put in representations to me to say, how do I subscribe? I did realize that the last episode I didn't put a link in, which doesn't really help, does it? It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help me. It helps no one. That's what it helps. No one. But this episode, if you go to the episode description, you will see a way of subscribing to the exclusive subscriber-only episodes. Okay, and there's 8 there so far. I am due an update, and I will do an update at some point, quite soon, in the next few days. But you can kind of unlock, if you like, or have access to all of those 8 episodes. Okay, so that's really good. So basically, thank you ever so much. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, also if you want to follow me on Instagram, but I mean, I wouldn't do that if I were you, because I never check Instagram. Also, if you want to, you can now listen to this on YouTube and all episodes from, I think it's like episode 55 or something like that. Last couple of episodes have been automatically uploaded onto YouTube as well. So let's take a look now at this amazing story that Douglas Dean Johnson has put up here. So I've got a link to it in the episode description, as you can imagine. So here we go. Take a look at this. The US Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, SSCI, has unanimously approved legislation containing language that appears intended to dig out any UAP-associated technology that is or ever was controlled by the federal government. The new UAP/UFO provisions are being publicly reported in detail in this article for the first time anywhere. So thank you, Douglas Dean Johnson, for this extraordinary exclusive that you have. That's me saying that, by the way. He obviously didn't write that little bit. The new UAP provisions are part of the fiscal year 2024 Intelligence Authorization Act, in brackets IAA, S dot 2103, close brackets, which was approved unanimously by the Senate Intelligence Committee in a closed-door session on June 14th and June 21st. He reported this. The text has just become public. So here we go. This is the interesting bit here. So the bill would require, quote, any person currently or formerly under contract with the federal government that has in their possession material or information provided by or derived from the federal government relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena that formally or currently is protected by any form of special access or restricted access, close quote, to notify the director of the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, within 60 days of enactment, and to provide within 180 days, which is 6 months, quote, a comprehensive list of all non-Earth origin or exotic unidentified anomalous phenomena material, close quote, possessed, and to make it available to the ARROW director for, quote, assessment, analysis, and inspection, close quote. The legislation would also require the ARROW director to notify designated congressional committees and leaders within 30 days after receiving any such notifications, information, or exotic materials. The Intelligence Committee legislation also includes what might be called a, quote, safe harbor provision, providing that if such a person complies with the notification and makes available deadlines, quote, no criminal or civil action may lie or be maintained in any federal or state court against any person for receiving UAP-related material or information, close quote. The safe harbor language may be read to imply that a private entity that obtained non-human technology from the government and then held on to that material outside of the standard mechanisms for democratic oversight, perhaps profiting from it in some manner, might be in a legally tenuous position. If so, then such an amnesty period might smooth the way for timely and orderly disclosure. This reading of the provision is speculative. The committee has not yet published any explanatory material on the language. So then it goes on and says, the language seems in sync with past public claims by some persons purporting to have direct or indirect knowledge of UFO crash retrieval programs, who have asserted that such programs had made little progress over decades because stringent secrecy has severely limited the scientific and engineering resources available to unravel the workings of devices or material of purportedly non-human origin. Such claims were made, for example, by an unnamed military contractor quoted by Michael Schellenberger, and we mentioned that in a recent episode, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, so it's a brilliant article and very robust, very strong language. It's basically saying, now is the time to come forward. Now is the time to report. And it's, unanimously passed. It's not law. This is the language that goes into the final bill that will be kind of brought together by all of the people that are kind of putting their little bits in, and it will probably be signed in to law in December for next year. But that's very, very interesting stuff, and it puts a time on when we can expect big revelations from corporations, organizations, and maybe kind of secret parts of the government that are working with corporations, to expect all of that to come forward. We're now jumping over to Matt Laszlo, and this is another brilliant story. So here we go, and there's a link in this as well. Right, so exclusive. Rubio says UAP whistleblower first credibly vetted, referred to Congress. And it's just a little intro that he has, but essentially this is like an interview, okay? Now, the audio of the interview is there, but he's written out the interview as well in a kind of, UFO Joe type way. So here we go. Matt Laszlo says, "Do you have any questions lingering from the whistleblower?" Marco Rubio says, "Do I have any questions?" So that's the voices I'm going with, okay? Matt, it doesn't really sound like them, but it's just for your ability to distinguish between the voices, okay? So I'll do the whole thing, okay? "Do you have any questions lingering?" It sounds quite seductive. I'm sure he is in real life. It's quite a good voice that, isn't it? "Do you have any questions lingering from the whistleblower?" Do I have any questions? "Do you think he classifies a whistleblower as a whistleblower?" "Well, the Inspector General has deemed it an urgent and credible threat to the... So that's how it's been referred to us. So I have no reason." "Yeah? So you're taking it credibly? Do you want to hear from him and others behind closed doors in the open?" "Well, we've begun that process. Obviously, it's up to the chairman, Mark Warner, in brackets, to decide what direction to go on. But I know we've already begun that." It sounds a bit like Batman. "But I know we've already begun that process. I think he's interviewed with the staff already. So, what do you think of the notion that there are saps hidden in Congress?" "Those claims have been made for years, and that's certainly something we'd be very disturbed by. And that's what the gist of the whistleblower's claim is, that there are programs that should have been notified to Congress that were not. So we're gonna be interested in that, no matter what the topic is." "And that's kind of new compared to others in the past." "Well, we've heard those claims in the past. This is the first one that's gone through this process." Interesting. Then he says, "Follow me on Twitter for further updates at Matt Laszlo," which I've linked. Thank you, Mr. Laszlo. And thank you, Mr. Rubio. And I do apologize for your voice, in particular, Mr. Rubio. Now, so the interesting thing there is it's something that's, we've kind of been around the Grush tree, haven't we? Many times we've danced around the Grush tree. Should really call it the Grush brush. The Grush bush. But his name isn't Grush, it's Grush. So what is new here, though, is that Rubio, the Grush basically spent 4 years checking out these guys, them like himself, thinking, naturally enough, hold on a minute, I'm being sold a pup here, and then realizing, oh my God, no, this is real. He saw enough evidence, he interrogated the people enough in SAPS to be convinced of what it was that they were being shown. He realized it was legal, and he made a complaint to the ICIG, and we all know that. But the interesting thing that Rubio is doing is saying that process of the Inspector General for the intelligence community, meeting with him, interviewing him, taking his concerns, as urgent and credible, that was a vetting process. This is the really interesting thing that Rubio says, that the ICIG has vetted Grush. So he then said, go to Congress. And he met, and we know this from Ross Coulthard, he met the staff in the Congress. So, like the not the actual Congress people, but the staff that work for the Congress people who have the kind of relevant clearances, obviously, because if you don't, then you can't have the conversations. And so, and he also met with some House staff and lawyers as well, I think. But from the Congress point of view, that's what Rubio is saying. He has, I think, he's interviewed with staff already. So it looks like, it's all coming together. I mean, these guys that are writing the bill that's has just been unanimously voted on in the Senate are obviously kind of aware that whistleblowers are speaking to them and speaking to their staff and saying, this is being taken from you, this is being hidden from you, you don't have oversight on this. So they're writing the language like absolutely appropriately to chase this down. So it's all coming together. But I thought it was quite interesting, that word vetted. And of course, it gives you massive amounts of confidence and encouragement if you are a senator. For, the ICIG has already done the kind of weeding, if you like. He's already done the verification. Grush has been vetted. So we're now going to go back to the journal that Avi Loeb is making or writing on his field trip off of Papua New Guinea, in the ocean off of Papua New Guinea. And this is from tomorrow. It's dated June 25th, but in London, British summertime, it's still June 24th, okay? But of course there, it's, what is it, roughly, I don't know, 11 hours ahead? Something like that. Something like that. Right, okay. So this is called We Have 25 Sifruls from IM1's site. Now, I'm going to play you an interview, and at that point they had 11, I think. So they're finding a lot of them, and they've actually got this really brilliant image of the Interstellar Expedition Sifrul count. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Essentially, it's like a spherical, tiny little fragment about the size of the head of a pin, like under a millimeter in size, most of them. And I think run 8 was the most successful, but they've been getting a couple. Run 15 had 3 of these little things. So anyway, let's read a little bit of this and then we'll jump into the audio. So it says, by now we have 25 Sifruls from the site of the first recognized interstellar meteor, IM1. They are kept in vials and organized in a plastic container like babies in their beds within a delivery room. We nearly doubled the threshold for opening the champagne bottles on Silver Star. That's the name of their boat. I asked Rob McCullum why he bought the bottles on board in the first place, and he replied that he's an optimist. Life is sometimes a self-fulfilling prophecy, so it's better to be an optimist. Last evening was stormy, and so we postponed the celebration to tonight. At its core, this will be a celebration of the scientific method and of courage to follow it despite all odds. Fishing for milligram mass babies after they settled to an ocean floor depth of 2 kilometers nearly a decade ago, using a 200 kilogram magnetic sled, is no small feat. What counts for our future analysis is the total mass of Sifruls. This can be estimated by summing up the Sifrul volumes, which scale as the cube of their individual sizes. Altogether, we have about 30 milligrams of Sifrul material as of now. Based on the energy radiated from IM1's fireball and the measured IM1's speed, one can infer the mass of material entrained in the fireball to be about 500 kilograms. If we end up retrieving 50 milligrams over the remaining 3 days of the expedition, the total mass we collect would constitute 1 part in 10 million of the fireball's debris mass. To summarize, a team of 24 researchers and support staff spent 2 weeks and $1.5 million on bringing 1/10 of a millionth of the debris mass of IM-1 to the deck of the ship Silver Star. So they're going to bring this back, and they've got a couple more runs to go. So they'll, undoubtedly find a few more cephalals at least. And I think they've got up to three more days and up to 9 more runs, I think. If everything kind of goes well, it looks as if they can do 3 a day or something like that. So and then it goes back to Harvard, and then they do. So this is the preliminary tests on the machines that they can actually get onto the boat, And now we're going to jump into the audio, which is in a video, an interview that Avi Loeb gave a couple of days ago to this, what is it, like a TV show, is it? Called The Hill? I think it might be connected to some kind of publication. But anyway, it's good stuff. And here is Avi Loeb.
So tell us what you found and why there is some indication or why you suspect that it might be interstellar in origin. And is what you're saying not just that it's interstellar in origin insofar as it came from outside of the solar system, but that it is evidence of intelligent design?
Well, so first about the interstellar origin, that became clear from the high speed of the meteor. Mm-hmm. And we discovered it based on government data. And then the U.S. Space Command issued a letter to NASA where it confirmed that the 99.999% that indeed this object was moving too fast to be bound to the sun, that it came from outside the solar system. And moreover, they released data about the fireball that allowed us to infer that it's tougher than all the space rocks that were identified by NASA over the past decade, 272 of them. So it was made of very unusual material. And that led me to initiate this expedition. And we have an exceptional team of researchers and support staff that allowed us to build this machinery that we are using to find those fragments that were left behind. And now we can actually look at the materials that we recovered. And amazingly enough, we found basically what is called the spherules. These are particles that are spherical, perfect spheres made of metal. And we can put them into what is called an X-ray fluorescence analyzer that allows us to infer the composition. And the composition appears to be different than commercial metals that we use here on Earth, anything that humans produce. But it's also different from asteroids, from rocks that previously were analyzed. And that makes, first of all, it implies that perhaps indeed it originated from a completely different environment. And moreover, perhaps it was manufactured in an artificial way, technologically. And, that would be the first time that an interstellar object was analyzed by humans. We can hold it in our hand, the materials. We retrieve them from the ocean. And the ocean is a perfect museum to collect those things because they do not get covered. If it fell in the Sahara Desert, for example, it would have been covered by dust over the past decade. We wouldn't find it. And so we're lucky on many fronts, also in terms of those small particles. It took us a while to find them because they were embedded in volcanic ash that basically covers the entire surface of the ocean floor. And so we had to, go with tweezers and isolate them, but after looking at them through microscopes. And, as of now, we have 11 of them. They are quite remarkable. You can see images of them that I put on my blog on medium.com. So if you just search for Avi Loeb at medium.com. In fact, I just a half an hour ago, I show images of the last 2 that we discovered, but before that there were 9 others, and they are quite remarkable. I mean, they're tiny, the size of the head of a pin, and these are the type of droplets you get from heating of any meteor that enters the atmosphere. But in this case, the meteor is very special, both in composition and in speed. It actually moved outside the solar system faster than 95% of all the stars near the sun. And that raises the possibility that it had some artificial propulsion. Why would it move so fast, even relative to stars near the sun? And why would it be made of materials that are far tougher than iron? And so now we have the materials. And I plan to bring them back to the Harvard College Observatory, where we have access to exceptional instruments. We can't have them here on the boat. We have some preliminary analysis, but once we analyze them, there we can quite conclusively figure out, first, that this object was interstellar, because we might find isotopes that you don't see in solar system objects. But moreover, we might figure out that it's actually technological in origin. Once again, because it's made of some alloy that does not appear in nature.
So that's very exciting. We await further study, and all the links are in the episode description. So thanks ever so much for listening. Episode 59 is just around the corner. I mean, this is it's all kicking off at the moment, isn't it? Yeah. So very, very interesting world that we're living in. And see you later.